Live with Kat Matlock here at Free Body. And tonight I'm going to share with you why it's often not a good idea to stretch when you feel tight. So, why it's not a good idea to stretch where you feel tight. So, it seems to make sense, right? You're feeling tight and you're like, oh, if I could just stretch it out, I'd feel so much better. But then often you don't feel better. And sometimes you might notice actually that your yoga practice makes you feel worse. You feel worse after stretching. Maybe your headache gets worse. So here's the thing. Often the muscles that feel tight in our bodies are the ones that are pulled long and they're kind of hanging on for dear life, wishing that you would shorten them. And then you go to tighten them. Right? So let's imagine this. Let's imagine a rubber band and you're pulling on a rubber band and that makes it tight, right? If you squash a rubber band toward itself in the center, that rubber band gets looser and softer. Our muscles are actually the same. When a muscle is short or it's kind of pulling and it's short or it's held in a shortened position, that muscle often isn't the muscle that's crying out feeling tight. It's more often the opposite muscle. So common example is that lots of folks come into my office or my clinic or to see me and they're kind of a little crooked in the torso or they're leaning their heads to one side. Very commonly, most people lean their head to one side or the other. I'm a right leaner. We tend to lean toward one side or the other, partly because of our posture, but also partly because we just look more interested. Don't I look more interested when I'm kind of leaning in and leaning my head in than just kind of straight on? You know, we're listening, we're paying attention perhaps, or we're habitually dropping the head, or the pelvis is off, and so the torso is off. And so for your head just to be neutral, one side of the neck and the shoulders is going to be long, one side of the neck and the shoulders is going to be short. And I guarantee you, 99% of the time, the side that is going to be activated or feeling tight and stuck is not this short side, it's this long side. So many folks come in with me, they have radiating ache up along the side of the neck. That almost always comes from upper trapezius up here. Aching along the side of the neck doesn't come from the neck muscles, it comes from the upper trapezius. And invariably, they have this situation going on. They're like, yeah, it just feels all tight in here. And I try to stretch it out and I try to stretch it out and it doesn't get better. And I'm like, yeah, so stop stretching it. Don't stretch it. Stretch the opposite side because the opposite side is just kind of short and drawn in and doing its thing, but it's not being pulled. And muscles that aren't being pulled on won't feel tight. They might ultimately start to feel restricted. They might get dry over time, but they're not going to feel typically tight, right? They're going to feel they're just kind of doing their thing. The ones that feel tight are the opposite side. So most often, the two steps that you need to take when you're feeling tight in your muscles is to stretch the opposite side and then strengthen the part that feels tight. So here's another example. So most people come in who are having back pain. Most of the time they're tucked, right? I talk a lot about being stuck in a tuck. So most of the time they're tucked under. Their bellies and their hamstrings are short and their back is long and tight. Their hip flexors are long and tight. Tight meaning they're pulled long like a rubber band. So often they're stretching their back, going into child's pose, doing all things. I just can't get my back to feel better. I'm like, yeah, because you're stretching the wrong side of the equation. Open the short side, strengthen the long side. Lengthen what's short, strengthen what's long. That's the formula. That's the best formula. And you open the short side by using some balls. There's where you're going to do your stretching. And then if you're having back issues, then you strengthen the back. You can hit it with a ball to release the trigger points, but you're not trying to stretch out the back. You're not trying to stretch out this long side of the shoulder. You want to just take a step back and look at your body and see, okay, what's short and what's long? So you're going to lengthen what's short and strengthen what's long. And just this little video right here, this little piece of information can be a game changer for you if you have chronic tension or tightness, sensation or feeling of tightness in your body, in your muscles, and it's not going away. And no matter how much yoga and how much stretching and all the things that you do, if it's not going away, it's probably because it's the long, tight muscle. So recap, often when we feel muscles that are tight, they're the long muscles. Take a step back, look at your body, lengthen what's short, strengthen what's long. You can use balls in both areas, but your big stretches are going to be in the short side, and your strengthening practice is going to focus on that long, aggravated side so that you can restore balance to the tissues and feel great in your body again. So I also want to say that tonight is my last live for a little while. I'm going to take a little hiatus from the Tuesday night lives. I'll be coming back soonish, maybe the end of the summer. But I'll be continuing to release videos regularly. I'm just not going to be doing them live. But I'm so glad that you've tuned in. Please let me know if any of the videos that I've shared, these talks have been helpful. I take requests for videos and information. I love taking requests. So I'm Kat Matlock here at Free Body in Asheville, North Carolina. Website is freebodynow.com. Check it out. Thanks for being here. Take care.